Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network. Welcome back to the show. We are so excited to continue our discussion with Jake Horne. We are talking about the gap year and all his work helping you as a student, as a family member, even those parents out there who are dealing with their children, going to college, but then thinking about this pre-gap year. Well, guess what? It's an amazing thing. He's lived it, he's done it, and he's helping coaching families and students all over the world with the pre-gap year planning. And welcome back to the show today. How are you?
Fine, Jill. I'm happy to be back. Winter has come, and it's time to stay warm and keep on talking. So
exactly.
Here I am. This is our 6th podcast, and I thought I would actually shift gears just a little bit. I think I've probably talked a lot more about what I think are the benefits of the gap year in terms of just what the individual Gen Z, and that's who I work with, Gen Z kids, between high school and college, who are interested in taking a gap year, I think should take a gap year. And a lot of it, what I've been talking about is developing those skills of self-awareness, broadening perspective, resilience, just understanding the world more and who they are and what their purpose in life is. And that's incredibly valuable. But I wanted to shift gears a little bit more to make it more concrete. And that is how this plays out in life and the business world with careers and jobs specifically. Oh. And so I wanted to step back here, and I hope this doesn't sound too ideological. I apologize if it does. But everybody seems to be thinking or seeking the golden age of America again, getting back to the good old days and when all was good. And the fact of the matter is those days are not going to return because the genie's been let out of the bottle. We live in a world which is technologically driven. It's a world in which we are highly dependent on energy and our connectedness with the internet, the world, social media, all of these things. And it's changed the way we have to think about business and our relationship in the world, our careers in the future. And so I want to make the case here that the gap year helps a great deal in promoting a particular kind of thinking, which is what businesses are looking for, what the individuals who are the most highly paid individuals going forward will need to have and will need to practice on a regular basis. So that is called lateral thinking. Wow. Okay. And for those of you who don't know what lateral thinking is, I'll step back and say this kind of thinking that we've been using all along really is linear thinking, which is one step and then a next and a next and a next. And it's all sort of related to our specialty, the thing that we want to do in life specifically. And we just stay in that silo and we build ways of thinking that are diminished, that are more confined. In this new world we live in, those specialists are beginning to disappear because AI and technology is going to supplant them.
It sure is. And that's a big problem, right?
Yes.
And these younger generations, though, also are going to have many different types of careers, which I know we're going to discuss today. Right. But this is challenging. It's challenging to say the least.
Right. Well, it's so lateral thinking is thinking across disciplines. And I'll explain that more, but it's been the capacity to have had enough experiences so that your understanding of the way that there are lots of different ways of thinking about and solving problems. And that if you only use the problem solving skills that you're taught in school, which is really, some critical thinking, SAT prep, resume building, but it's all within this sort of confined world, which doesn't factor in the expansiveness of the many cultures and the many ways of thinking that are out there. So the kinds of skills that business are looking for, and it's really it's called habits of mind. It's
Mm-hmm.
jargon, but it's habits of mind. And it's persistence, managing your impulsivity, empathy, flexible thinking, curiosity, optimism, metacognition, which is sort of being able to think in bigger and self-reflective ways. All
Mm-hmm.
of these are essential skills, and businesses are actually looking for these people. They're actually not looking for the specialists, except in discrete areas. They're looking for the people who can put the connections together.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where the value is to companies. That's where the value is to society. It is putting these what might be disparate, very, very different areas together in new and novel ways. So
Yeah.
I want to give you an example of what that looks like.
Sure.
And I'm going to have to do a little reading here, just simply because it's a lot.
I know. Go
But
for it.
okay, so the smartphone.
Mm.
The smartphone is almost the metaphor for lateral thinking. Okay, it's
Yes.
called a smartphone. It's a phone. Okay, it started off as a phone and became something very, very different.
Ooh.
So what are all the very different silos and disciplines that went into creating the smartphone that we all are so heavily dependent on? Well, and you have to have a telecommunications and networking system. Okay, that was developed before the smartphone existed. That's when computers were put together and wired together, networked together to share information between research centers. That
Mm-hmm.
evolved eventually into a much more open platform, but it's computer to computer. It's sharing communication. So cellular networks, Wi-Fi technology, Bluetooth, GPS, and what's called near field communication. These are all separate, distinct disciplines. They were all brought
Mm-hmm.
together by the creative minds that are out
Wow.
there to create a telecommunications and networking system, which the smartphone wouldn't exist without. So then we have computing and electronics. That goes into the hardware of what is a phone composed of in terms of hardware, and it's a lot. I mean, it's these microprocessors,
Yeah.
it's storage, RAM, memory, battery technology, sensors. I mean, these are all very, very discrete. And again,
Yeah.
I don't want to bore you here, but the point I'm trying to make is that you need to bring together, if you're going to be a creative and you're going to think laterally, you have to think in new ways of solving the problem and creating new opportunity. LEDs at displays, touch screens, Gorilla Glass. I don't know if you know what that is, but I mean, these are indestructible screens.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Camera technology. I mean, the camera thing has become an enormous thing and its application can be used in an enormous number of ways. Just taking pictures, optical image stabilization, software enhancement, uh, operating systems and software. All the apps we have, all the operating systems, they all have to be in a line and put together. Separate discipline, whole bunch of different people work just in that realm. And certainly audio and multimedia, these are, again, separate, distinct silos and disciplines. Speakers, microphones, digital audio processing,
Mm-hmm.
connectivity, data
Wow.
transfer, security and encryption, material science. These are, and again, my point here, and then you throw in the artificial intelligence on top of that,
Yeah.
which is blazing now, and wireless and sensor technologies. And then you have the manufacturing of things.
Of
These are
course.
literally 12 separate areas with sub areas that were brought together through Apple technology, through Steve Jobs' brain and his team, and they thought laterally, say, how can we enhance this phone? It's just a phone, and they put it all together, and they've created this thing which none of us is going to want to ever give up.
Yeah.
So the genie's out of the bottle, the horse is out of the barn. We are dependent on this technology, and it's been brilliant. It's also changed the way we live in
Yeah.
very material ways, the way we connect and deal with each other. So, one of the ways that these individuals, the best lateral thinkers, are people who have experienced life in lots of different realms. They've
Yeah.
had multiple jobs. They've had multiple experiences. I'm just thinking about jobs, for instance. I mean, he worked in a deli. I mean,
Amazing, right? Oh,
he worked on different projects that had nothing to do with, technology per se. And the point I'm trying to make is that you never know what you're doing in the moment and how that's going to apply in the future.
yeah.
And very often, if you have a creative mind and you're looking for those opportunities and those connections, the lateral
Mhm.
connections, innovation comes out of it through creativity and the knowledge. It's called, knowledge workers. Those are the individuals who can bring these pieces together and will have the most interesting careers and will have the most and profitable, most likely too. Now, they also blow
Mhm.
up. They also make mistakes. I mean, Edison was one of these polymaths who had
Yeah.
lots of different jobs, lots of different experiences, and 1 out of 100 of his experiments blew up. I mean, one of his
Yeah.
100 experiments actually worked. So it requires a persistence and belief in being able to put these combinations together and through discovery. But it's lateral thinking. Lateral thinking is not taught in school at
Mm-mm.
all.
It's got to be
But we live
learned.
in a world, right? I mean, we live in a world in which lateral thinking is the primary driver for creativity and innovation across every single industry.
Yeah,
So
correct.
the question is, how do you get this experience? And schools are doing it, but you need to have, but as an individual, you need to go out into the world and experience, all those aspects of novelty,
Yeah.
all those aspects of seeing the world through other people's eyes, understanding and appreciating the way other cultures and other people solve problems. The United States doesn't have a lock on, problem solving. We happen
Hmm.
to be very good at it because the sort of a center of this kind of drive. But very, very, there's no training for this kind of stuff by and large. Most of the individuals who are successful in the world of technology and in this modern society, or whatever it's called, they're in some ways they're oddballs.
Mm.
They're individuals who stepped out of the track
Yeah.
and just pursued things because they were interested in pursuing them. And they didn't become experts by and large. The people who really put these things together were generalists. Okay, so they were broad thinkers. Now you have to put the team together of broad thinkers and the deep, singular, siloed individuals into teams. But
Yeah.
somebody's got to rule the roost. Somebody's got to
Well, I
put the
got to
team
say,
together.
these broad thinkers are people like you, people like me, people that are a little older, a little wiser, that've been
Right,
through a
right,
lot. And right.
right.
And
Yep.
hence, we're here at the Student Compass just to remind everyone that's thestudentcompass.com. And Jake is helping, mentoring, and shaping your children to really get the best benefit of their future. And he's helping you navigate all of this, like you said here in the silos and working with these individuals, but then also with these experienced individuals. And I love this because you're really helping change the way of the future, the way of these children's with this gap year. Sorry, I had
Yep.
to interrupt. Go
Yeah.
ahead,
No,
Jake.
that's great.
You're
No,
on a
and that's
roll.
that's right. So I believe that it's really important to start if you haven't started before high school.
Okay.
And there's a lot of evidence that individuals who start thinking in new creative ways and they're trained to think in new creative ways at a younger age, and we're talking
Hmm.
middle school and we're talking high school,
Wow.
if they start, then they're far more prepared for being a creator and an innovator, and will step out of college with
Yeah.
a great deal more than just the individual who goes to college,
Yeah.
because they're bringing to bear a very different way of thinking about their world. They're the ones who sit up front and have conversations with the professor that seem odd. They
Yeah.
seem off track, but they're actually not. It's just without training, it's hard to see where the connections are. So we live in a world where those connections are really important. Thinking laterally is really important. The
Yep.
gap year really gives these kids who've really never done anything, and I have to be frank. I mean,
Yeah.
they've traveled with their parents. Maybe they've gone to different parts of the world, but by and large, they've never been independent. They've never had
Yep.
to deal with solving problems independently,
True.
and to reflect about what it
Mm-hmm.
all means and how it connects with them. So I push the gap year, two reasons, one of which is self-discovery and growing into an adult and I'm talking about Gen Z kids who go from being a teenager or adolescent to a young adult and take responsibility for themselves and go off to college or whatever comes afterwards with a very different way and strategy of interacting and developing essential skills that they're going to need. Those old skills of the manufacturing society we lived in, the industrial society, they're not going to be around. They're not going to be helpful.
No, they're not.
Those individuals are not going to have and not going to be able to participate in this world very well. And there's more pressure now than ever before. I'm just talking about careers. I'm not talking about addressing capable world problems. Be it climate, be it issues of environment, be it how to think about
Yeah.
technology as it relates to the human experience. So that's sort of kind of a new framework which I haven't really talked about, but I think it's in many ways even as compelling as the self-discovery that an adolescent needs through just getting out there on their own, being having their parents let them alone and let them go and grow up. And we live in a society that's highly protective, and these kids just can't do it, and so they're
Yep.
behind the eight ball.
We
So
as parents, though, are we also to blame? I mean, because we have been sheltering them, nurturing them, giving them, I just remember growing up, it was like I started working at 12. It was independence. Now it's like I feel a lot of
sure.
parents are keeping their kids under their little wing and nest. And I know times are a
Right.
little different, but I feel like we don't have our children are not having that responsibility at an early age to do more. I feel like as parents, we're doing more for them, which is in sense ruining them and their
Right.
urgency to move in a sense because we're keeping them at bay, keeping them happy, giving them their phones,
Right.
giving them what they want, giving their video games instead. Hey, go out and work for it, and then I'll give it to you.
Yep. Yep. And I think that's absolutely right. And I wouldn't say blame.
Yes,
It's the nature of the society right
I know,
now.
I know.
I mean, you think about, what was it? The child that was the latchkey kid. I mean, a kid would come home, they'd lock themselves in. The impacts of things like the pandemic, the traumas
Yep.
that have happened
Mm-hmm.
for the last 24 years. I mean, there's good reason to be fearful, but
Absolutely.
in the face of all that, parents really
Yeah.
have to be much more willing to get their kids to be ready for this world. And so
Yeah.
we've been moving in the opposite direction. We're hunkering down. We're becoming this much more insulated country, I believe, in this more expansive global world. And it's interconnected. Everybody's talking to each other, but at the same time, it's like, you know, they're them, we're us, and
Yeah.
there's no middle place. And it's just like that's not the way the world is. That's not the way biology is. That's not the way the human mind actually functions. And if you as a parent want your child to be really successful, don't shoot for the first job. Don't push them to take a
Yeah.
job just to
Mm-hmm.
get going, because they'll be successful probably for the first 3 or 4 years,
Mm-hmm.
but they won't have any of the skills to build on to be able to take it further. And
Absolutely.
ultimately, the individual who
Yep.
goes on and builds those skills, goes off to college, challenges the world, is going to make, a couple million more. I mean, in terms of just pure, wealth. They're just simply going to have more opportunity, and they're going to be able to play out, those skills in ways that are really very innovative and productive, and make them feel as if they're contributing and has real merit. So
Great points.
I just wanted to run through, I just wanted to run through a couple things here, and I'm sorry, I'm looking at, there's so many things here.
No, I know, and we got a
So
late start, so we got
I
5
know.
minutes. Go ahead, sweetheart.
Okay. So I just want to say, so in terms of emerging and future careers, I'm just going to run through a couple of them. AI
Sure.
ethicist. Okay. Now, AI is going to present all sorts of complications, and who's going to run who? Who's going to monitor this? Nobody knows what it actually is yet, but it's actually taking the world by storm. But there have to be ethicists out there and structures to be able to make decisions about what the impact will be. And so there's that. AI trainer for emotional intelligence, training AIs to be emotionally intelligent. I mean, that's a very human trait. Okay? Somebody's got to be, or people have to be focused on making AIs actually useful to human beings more than just in the mechanics, more than just at a superficial level. Autonomous vehicle technician. Okay, I mean, it's like these cars are going to start driving, or these whatever they are, they're going to start driving, themselves. Well, people have to be trained to take care of these machines, and they're still not ready. If you look at the workforce, it's way behind the curve. But you have to know more than just using a wrench. You have to know the electronics. You have to know the algorithms. You have to know all the quirks of the way electronics works and the way it's interpreted by this AI that is actually running the machine. Nanomedicine specialist, developing microscopic devices for targeted therapies. This is coming down the pike, but this is a whole field of medicine that is, the training for this cuts across physics, biology, chemistry, technological. It's interconnecting with the surgical side of medicine. I mean, this is all, surgeons are going to have to know how to do this. I'm sorry, this I could go on with this. Vertical farming engineer.
Whoa, that's one I never heard of.
Where's the food going to come from?
You're right.
As there's diminished land, as supply chains get disrupted, as water becomes harder and harder to get your hands on, as the environment changes, hot, cold, these dramatic changes. I mean, how are you going to grow food?
Yeah.
Use all those big, beautiful buildings that are behind you to build farms. And this is being done. But you have to know how to do this well and at scale. Space tourism guide. I mean, I always thought that was pretty cool. You go up, in SpaceX or something like that, and you take people around and you show them, various asteroids or exoplanets, and you talk about what they're seeing. I mean, this is coming, and it is a pretty interesting world. Asteroid mining engineer. I mean, that's a big piece. I mean, there's so many precious minerals that are out there that we've already tapped out of the United States or around the world, but they're all over the solar system on rocks that are just floating around as asteroids or exoplanets. So there's a lot, and I would encourage everybody, all kids, all parents, to simply slow it down, not get so panicky, and let their kids experience the world and have lots of different experiences, because they will be far better prepared.
Well, thank you so much. Unfortunately, Jake, we're out of time. Tell us how we can contact you, please.
Yep. So my name is Jake Horne, Horne. The name of my company is The Student Compass. I work with Gen Z students on gap years, and it's Jake Horne 8216@gmail.com, and Google, The Student Compass.
Exactly.
And it comes up.
Thank you so much. Interesting conversation. I hope people take advantage and reach out to you, I should say. And thank you for the conversation. And it's changing my eyes. My kids are 7 and 9 or just turned 10. And it's like this whole new world out there. Thank you for enlightening me and so many. Reach out to Jake, everyone. Have a fantastic day.
Are you looking for even more of the podcasts and hosts that you love? The Podcast Business News Network is proud to announce that you now have even more ways to listen live. Check out the mytuner-radio, online radio box, and simpleradio apps on iOS and Android, or find us online. Search for Business News Network on mytuner-radio.com, or search Podcast Business News Network on streama.com and onlineradiobox.com/US. Take your podcast on the go and don't miss a minute of the action.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers.
Day-to-day simple tasks can become pretty daunting.
I have to carry my chair up 2 flights of steps or have somebody do it for me.
What scares me the most is just the falling.
When I'm struggling with my house, I think, to have that one great barrier just knocked down, it's crucial.
Home for Our Troops is a wonderful nonprofit that builds a
mortgage-free, fully adaptive, handicap-accessible house. And there's no catch.
It'll be our very first home that we've ever owned. This is a game changer.
This is where your life begins again.
We need you to join us in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Because of you, everything's going to be okay.